Welcome back to another episode of the Underbed Railway. Only the Underbed Railway is currently not under the bed. As you can see, it's standing upright here next to me, which might make it a bit echoey with solid walls all around me, but we'll make do. While it's in this upright state, I'll be able to show you all of the wiring that's going on the underside of the board. I also, while it's here, need to get to the DCC point decoders because there's a switch on there that I need to use in order to program them into Railmaster and make them usable. So, without further ado, let's take a look. Okay, so here we can see the underside of the board. As you can see, there's wiring, not so much on this side, but there is a lot of wiring going on over on this side. Down in this corner here, you can see where the wires come in. That's where they pass out of the bed. This is where they come in and they pass up to here, which is where our first set of dropper wires are. And these go to one of the sidings. Then it's not far before we move up and we get to our first set of points. There's a lot of wiring going on here. But what we have is the point decoder. Dropper wires coming into the point decoder, and then they pass out of the point decoder and into the solenoid. And that is one of a series which then I've numbered so that I can program them. That's number 1, number 2, should be a number here, there is number 3. So these are the points as they go round on the circuit. The bus wire is the white one, and that one goes up, passes through the wood, and then we go down here, through the structure again, and then we get into this area here. So this piece of base had to be cut out because there was a set of points that had to go above it, and we had to make room for the point solenoid. So I had to trim a piece out here. And we've got, obviously, I've used these. They're cheaper versions of Wago connectors, and it just allows me to quickly wire everything up. I may come back one day and remove all of these to replace it with solder and tidy it all up. So the bus wire then continues down here and further down, and then we're going round the far end of the layout now. So this is then the loop. This wire here is the one that I intend to use for lighting, and obviously the white one's the DCC bus. And then through to more dropper wires, more pieces of track. And this is this is the head end of the bed and the far end of the layout. There's a lot less track going on up this side of the board, but we have some more dropper wires here, and then we get up to the Hornby accessory and point decoder, which again takes its wires in from the DCC bus. I believe that's these ones. And then we go out to the 2 sets of surface mount points just there. It does leave us 2 spare outputs there, which I may use at a later date. We'll see. Then we follow up. So we're now coming up back towards the foot end of the bed, which is the near side of the layout. And we have some more dropper wires there, there, and there. And then I ran out of this wire here. So just to continue the circuit, I've used another piece of wire there. And that just brings us round to here. So this is the last piece on the layout. I think it doesn't actually, this one goes to here, that goes to there. Yep. So this is the end of the bus wire. It ends at this point here. It's quite confusing when we get to here because I've got the bus wire coming in to start here, and then I've got the bus wire finishing actually here. And I can't exactly remember why it ended up that way, but it did. I understand that this looks like quite a bit of a rat's nest, but my focus at the time was just to get it all in and get it working and do a lot of testing. I wanted to leave excess wire so that I could move things about if it needed to, and now I'm pretty sure that it's all working properly. I may trim some of this back and replace possibly some of these connectors with solder or better connections. There are quite a lot of these connectors being used up on this layout, and they may be useful at a later date. But there we go. That is my horrendous wiring beneath the board, and luckily nobody's going to see it. We've got this red and black wire. This comes in, this is where the wire passes through the board here and here, and that is for the lighting I intend to put on the stations, the platforms, and then that passes, and I've got it going all the way around just so that I can add in any extra wiring for lighting as I go. It passes through and then it goes through here, which is where it ends in the center of what will be the raised up terrain end. And then once it's under there, I can do any wiring underneath the terrain to get it to anywhere that I want to put lights. And that will be a low voltage, so that'll be probably between 3 and 12 volts. I've got some, here we go. I've got quite a few of these boards kicking about, and they're things I've used for multiple projects in the past. So they are DC to DC voltage droppers. As you can see, the arrow tells you which way, and they also say in and out. The output, I'm not sure what this was attached to previously, but I've got a USB wire, an old USB cable. I cut the end off and wired it into the input, which is a convenient way to get low voltage, usually around 5 volts, 1 amp supply, and then you adjust the output voltage that you want with this small screw on this blue part here, and then you get your output voltage over here. So I've used this before where I've needed to drop 5 volts down to 3 volts, and these can come in handy to convert any battery operated. I've used them for battery operated lights and turned them into mains USB lights to save on batteries before. They've got multiple uses, and I always find it handy to have several lying about. I've also got an array of relays that I will be able to make use of to switch things on and off. And that, as you can see, is the underside of the board. Now, I'm sure nobody's overly happy with how their board looks on the underside, and we're probably all quite grateful that it's all hidden away beneath the layout where nobody's going to see. I'm particularly ashamed of my wiring as it stands, but I did promise to show you everything, and so I am. And there we go. So the next thing I need to do now is program these boards, and so each one needs to be switched. There's a switch here to switch it from run to program, or it says set and run Get it to focus there. There we go. So we've got a switch there, which I need to switch to set, like this. And then we program it into Railmaster. It should operate this solenoid here. And then once it's done, we switch it back to run, and it's all good. This actually is capable of far more than I'm using it for. It can do switching of electrofrogs. It can also send outputs to things like crossing lights, anything like that, signals. All I'm using it for is I've got the DCC bus coming in and I've got the solenoid coming out. However, these are, I'm future-proofing myself by getting these so that I can make any upgrades in the future, or even replace these to use on a future layout, and I can just swap these out to be just switch controlled or put in a more basic decoder. So for now, that's that. I'm now going to program all of these and then possibly tackle some of this excess wiring. I'm not going to go crazy, but I'm going to get it back under the bed and test the points, and then hopefully I can get on with some ballasting, because that's what I really want to get done and start to make this layout look a little more interesting. So this is what it looks like if I grab a light. This is what it looks like on the other side, just standing up. You can actually, while it's out, I'll show you. These are the LED light strips that I've got. There we go, this one's a better one to look at. So they're actually perfectly safe to have under here. That background scene over there needs fixing, and I need to add more around the other side. This needs a hoover. It did have a hoover before, but obviously I'm not entirely sure how it all ends up under here, but it does. That's the current situation, and I'm now going to get on with some work. Okay, so here we are on Railmaster. Now the plan is to get the points and the point decoders on the layout to work with Railmaster so that we can operate them remotely. To do so, I need to add them to Railmaster, and to do that I need to change this sample track plan to become a representation of what we've got going on. Great. So each point has now been allocated a number, and the only thing now to do is take the laptop back through to the other room and get each one programmed. Okay, so here we are. We've got the Railmaster track plan designer page open again. I'm connected to the layout, and I've actually gone through and assigned each point a decoder port. So this is port 1, and this is port 10 over here. As you can see, controller A, port 10, start position left. It's not part of any group. So this is what I've got as number 8. So we pop this into set. We should then send a signal. There we go. So I should be able to see this move when I click there, and it's moved across. So hopefully I just need to do that for the rest of them and it'll all be working. So with a little bit of messing about, we've got these programmed onto Railmaster. So I've got all of the points now programmed. They're controllable on here. Including the surface points. So now I'm going to get back underneath the bed and fit some more of the Scenic background before I pop this back into place and make it more difficult for myself. Okay, so back beneath the bed here now. First job is to resecure this piece, and then we will pick some more scenery to put around the other side. So I'll get these out of the way. I've got some double-sided tape here. I've got some stronger double-sided tape here, and we've got our blade. So let's see what it takes to get this piece re-secured. Now these other scenery backdrops that we've got are not exactly the same. We don't have a perfect match-up. However, this end of the layout should actually hide most of this, but once it comes out around the other side, so we're now working around this corner here. Once we then get around this side and the scenery starts to drop back off again, we need a scene down that side of the bed. So I think because I've got the scenery, I'm going to use it. What I think I'm actually going to do is we're going to start at possibly the foot end. Okay, my camera stopped recording, but this is the foot end piece of the bed, which I've now added a back scene to, and I've continued that with the trimmings from this end now over in that corner. And now the next sheet I need to put along here. This is a bit of a problem. I had a lot of difficulty doing that on the other side, but we will persevere. Okay, so after many struggles, and it's definitely not perfect yet, but we have backdrop along the foot end once it's reattached, and scenic background all the way around. I know it doesn't match up properly. Like I say, the stuff at this end, as long as there's something there, it just won't look out of place, but you won't actually see most of it because it will be hidden. This piece needs sticking. I actually need to get more tape. The tape I had wasn't sticking very well, so I need some more of a black tape that's actually going to stick to hold it in place all the way along the top. I'm not overly fussed about holding it in the bottom because the board, once it's slid back in, should cover up most of that and hold it into place. So long as it's held along the top, and this piece here will just need sticking in, then we should be good. So I think once this has had a bit of a hoover and a bit of a clean up, and we should be ready to put the board back into place. And I think maybe for ballasting, I'm thinking about removing the mattress and all the slats and entering from the top so that I get a better top-down access into the bed. The lights will still be there, plus I can use my video lights to give me loads of light, but that will give me plenty more access. So next thing is to get the hoover out and slide this board back into place.